All right, good afternoon. It is 81 degrees here in Austin, Texas, especially here on the hilltop. Welcome back to another installment of All Access Garage. I'm your host, Josh Hankin, and today we're followed by someone in another installment, someone that I actually saw at South by, someone that is just eccentric, something that I don't know. There's not words you can put this band into. It's Eric from Bigville. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello.
Yeah,
What's up,
so
Josh?
thanks. Like I said, thanks for coming in. And for people who don't know, this is an Austin band, Big Bill. They're just an amazing group of people. Again, I've seen you guys at South by. I know that you're going to be hearing that constantly, but it's just literally the first time I saw you guys was the time I said, you know what, like this is going to be the time I follow someone, this high end, and it was just so much fun. I got a group of people to listen in, and it was just so much fun. So I'm really happy that you're taking the time out of your day to fulfill a fan's heart, I guess, right? Whatnot. So I appreciate you and whatnot. But besides that, how was your Saturday, the day before Easter, treating you?
Yeah, it's been nice. It's humid out. I was outside. I mentioned to you before we started recording. I've got this property that we're renting. There's like this forested area out there, and I've been building a nature trail. And so I was out there in the morning, tending to that, getting it ready.
There you go. There you go. So I'm glad at least someone had a productive morning, right? I like I mentioned, I woke up literally late today. I had some papers due, but I'm happy that I'm here awake now with you. In fact, in the back, for people who don't know, we actually have Oscar here joining us. So, hi, Oscar. So,
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I see we're just having a three-way call here, right? But yeah. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's go for it.
Yeah, so again, well, not again, but rather, where did it all start for the Big Bill Band? Where was the origin stories for that?
Big Bill started in 2011. My brother Cody and I moved to Austin, and we were living not too far from you. Actually, we were living off Ben White, and um, at the time it was called Manchaca. Now it's Menchaca. And yeah, with some apartments right there, like the only ones we could afford in town. And I started working at the summer camp, and my brother was pedicabbing. And I intended already, when I asked my brother to move to Austin with me, like, we got to start a band, because I had a band in college, or after college actually, uh, briefly, and I got really hooked on that, and I was like, we got to do it. And I needed him because I didn't play any instruments, but he was amazing at guitar, and I was like, I feel like I can make songs and perform on a stage, but I just need you to do the music. And so he was down, and we came to Austin and got that apartment. And actually, the stress and labor of like getting work and trying to like pay rent made it kind of like get delayed starting music. But our friend Dave Fitzhugh, who I went to high school with, was living really close to there. And he started coming over, and we were tinkering around with some song ideas. And then Cody saw us and was like, hey, what's going on here? And so the three of us quickly hung out all the time. We would just constantly be working on songs. And eventually in 2012, like fall 2012, we played our first show um, at Trailer Space Records, which doesn't exist anymore, but it used to be, where right next to East Side Pies on Rosewood
Yeah.
in East Austin. And yeah, so that's how it got started. And we've had lots of lineup changes over the years, at least
Yeah.
like three or four major shifts throughout those years. Um, and my brother Cody is now not part of the band. He is in Florida, but the new record we're about to put out, he fully plays on it and co-wrote many of the songs.
So definitely.
Uh,
And I'm sorry, go for it.
I think, yeah, yeah. That was a long answer to how we got
Okay.
started, but I kind of got you all the way caught up.
Oh, right on. Yeah. So, I mean, it works. It works. You know, again, I think for anyone who's heard the um, Big Bill band prior, like I was listening to after I went ahead and listened to you guys at South by, went ahead and started listening to your older stuff, and even now when I'm comparing it now to the newer stuff, especially because I was making a playlist on Spotify for all the music you guys played, because you had like a super long set list, but it was so much fun, and I was looking for the little songs here and there, and I couldn't because there was, I believe, a lot of them were unreleased.
Hmm.
And it was just so much fun. Every song that I went there, especially from again when I was looking at the older albums, it sounds like a Big Bill song. So
Mm.
again, I'm super hyped for that, and I think that's something that's very and we'll talk a little bit later on that. I think it's really authentic um, to the artist because it's like I think a lot of artists can't capture that where it sounds authentic to their music. It sounds like their music, if that makes any sense. So I'm happy to
Yeah.
report for some people who don't know, you know, this it is an amazing experience, and I can't wait for it to fully hear it all mastered and whatnot. So I don't know if that's putting any pressure on
Yeah.
you
No, I
for
mean,
that.
yeah, because we're doing a record release this summer. And so we were like, well, we should probably play all the new songs. We're gonna have to learn all those songs. And then we realized there's only 4 songs that we don't already play off that record. So yeah, we've already kind of incorporated a lot of those songs. Some of them we were playing live for years, even before we recorded them. And others we wrote and recorded and then still haven't played live. So it's a nice mix. But yeah, as far as like our sound having a consistent vibe, that's kind of something that I feel like I can credit to Cody, because back in the day, if I ever tried to write anything too like corny, I don't know what the if corny is the right word, but like anything that like strayed from the particular Big Bill point of view, he would be like, nah, that's not that's not cool. You know, like if it was too like emotional or we used to talk about like uh songs being kind of emotionally manipulative or trying to like make people think you're cool, or there's a lot of pitfalls to writing music that we would look at other people and be like, we don't want to do that. Like we want to make it um like poking people in the eye, you know, for just the way society is, and not ever taking ourselves too seriously, because we ourselves are playing a character in our songs that is like a little too angry, a little too like upset about things that are just like basic things that everybody has to go through. And that to us is really funny. And I think that's kind of the core of what we are trying to go for. I mean, that said, we do kind of expand out a little bit on this record, I think, to a little bit less pure to that like uh mischievous punk mindset. There's a little bit of other sounds that we're exploring.
Of course, and I think again it was going back to kind of almost. I believe that you mentioned the characters of what you guys have there. It's so much fun listening to them. And for people who don't know who Big Bill is, the first time I saw them, you guys were wearing these. I don't know what you would call them, but it was like literal big. Well, it was like Big Bill merch. I don't know if what you would call it or something like that, costumes or something. But it was so much fun because you guys seemed so interested in the music that you were performing and making, and I think something that captures me, and forgive me, I should know, but your bassist now, when we went to the Easy Tiger, it looked like when he was playing one of the songs, I have it recorded and I'll actually send it to you. He looks like he's in a trance, but he was like playing his bass guitar and he was just like staring off into space. But it's like, it's so much fun watching you guys because it's like every single person within the band is so putting 110% into into the songs,
Mm.
and I think that's something that a lot of people don't get when they go into these experiences, especially I'm not trying to call out anyone at all, but when you go to other bands, you see how they're just standing still playing their instrument singing. You guys are exploring everything, especially you, where you were exploring even the crowd. You're going around the crowd, just doing all that fun stuff, and it was just again the experience you don't get everywhere, and goes to show that you enjoy what you do, and I appreciate that, especially people who go and see it. Especially when I believe some people when actually brought you a pretzel when you kept promoting the Easy Tiger pretzels everywhere, and it was just so much fun because it was like again, you're involving not only yourselves but with the people there. So that's something that's extremely awesome that
Well,
everyone
yeah,
appreciates.
it's fun to make fun of. I mean, the the venue in a lighthearted way. We're joking, but it's funny to be like, I don't know. I think we were like, oh, they sponsored us and they said we have to say uh, their the Easy Tiger official slogan 10 times throughout our show, which is Easy Tiger, eat a fucking pretzel.
Yeah. And that was the same thing. So now my friend and I, Kyle, we go out now and we're all like, "Hey, you want to know the best spot in Austin?" They're like, "What?" He said, "Go to Easy Tiger. The pretzels are the best." It's just such an inside joke. I
They
don't know
should
if
be
you.
paying us. They
Yeah,
should be
right.
paying us.
Or it's like I don't know if you've heard that joke, the one that Chili's on Lamar or something like that. I don't know if that's an ongoing thing. Everyone at one point everyone's like, "Hey, did you go to Chili's on Lamar? I heard it's the best Chili's you'll ever eat at." And
Wow.
you go there, and then there's nothing special about the Chili's. It's just a Chili, so you're just wasting your time there, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, kind of going back to you. Was there anyone who kind of inspired you to get into the music scene, perhaps?
So I did, like I said, start my first band after college, and I went to school in Lubbock, Texas, at Texas Tech University, and which is, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's like a very conservative town, a much smaller town than Austin, and uh, quickly you find the people that are like you because there's not a lot of them, and because it's like everyone's into football and I don't know, studying business or stuff like that. But at the radio station was everybody that was like cool, and I worked at the radio station, and um, there were some people that worked at the radio station that had bands, and not only were they all in bands, but they would host house shows all the time, and like almost every night there was another house show, and you wouldn't really need to ask like, where are you going to go out tonight, because there would always be like one show that everybody was at. And moving to Austin was interesting because it was like, oh, there's at least like 3 or 4 shows a night that my friends could be at. But in Lubbock it was like, no, everyone's going to be at the same show. um, and so it was really cool. And there was this band, the Numerators, that my friends were in, that was 2 people, and they were brothers. So I I think that was inspiring because I later started a band with my brother. But uh, they definitely did a lot of stuff that was really inspiring to me, like running into the crowd and um, switching instruments and just kind of turning it into a, like, realizing that the performance is not just playing music. Like it's much deeper than that. And I think seeing bands like well, Daniel Francis Doyle, who I later lived with in Austin, but he would come through, and like that scene in Lubbock like worshiped Daniel Francis Doyle. Like people like that were just really DIY, weird, um not not anywhere near the mainstream, but like just doing it for themselves, like really interesting performers. um like a really early version of OCs came through many times. Ty Siegel, like all these people before they even got big, uh, were doing these DIY tours, and they would stop in Lubbock because of the hardworking people at the radio station that would like bring them there. Uh, so yeah, like all of that, and then also seeing a lot of bands, because we would see bands almost every night, and you wouldn't even really look up like who they were. You would just show up to the venue, and some of them I would be like frustrated because it's like, okay, this song's okay, but then in between songs or during the songs they're just standing there, uh it would like I would just like make a note, like I would do it a little differently. I feel like I could do that better, and then you start to think like I gotta try this, like I hate looking at these people and like feeling jealous uh about what they're doing. I want to just try it. So at that time I had a friend uh that everybody called Fiddles, uh Brian Fiddles Flores, but we just called him Fiddles, and he was playing a lot of shows. Like he would open a lot of shows at this place called Bashes that most of the shows were at, and he would open it just as solo guitar, and he would have like a loop pedal and maybe some other effects, but he would just sit there playing his guitar. And I was like, okay, here's a guy just playing guitar by himself. Like, let's start a band together. And I think we played maybe like 15 to 20, maybe more, maybe 30 shows. Like it wasn't a long time that we were in a band. It was called Warm Arm, and it barely existed, but like uh it was just so fun right from the beginning. And we had like a handful of songs. I think our last show was very memorable. I was about to move away with my girlfriend at the time to New York, and so the band was kind of dissolving. And we had one last show, and I remember this is probably too long of an answer, but the bands before us were taking quite a while, and it was like almost 2 a.m. and we were just now getting set up. And a couple members of my band were very drunk at the time, including the guitar player, who for the first two songs wasn't even plugged in. I think he was trying to like find the end of his cable. Like it was just like, okay, what is going on? And then there was a whole song where he was just tuning loudly, not even in like a tuning pedal where only he could hear it, or no one could hear it. You're just looking at the thing. He was just tuning in the room. And so you could hear this like discordant like sound going on. And then I think we had one song with all of us playing, and we improvised it because I think we were out of songs. And it just I think at the beginning of that song, the bass player turned right as I turned, and like his bass collided with my head. And before I knew it, blood was just like dripping down my face. This is such a memorable experience because suddenly everyone in the crowd was just looking at me like with such wide eyes, like, what the fuck is this? And we're just like, I'm just making up lyrics. The whole band is just improvising. And we went on for quite a while, way past closing time. But the guy that was booking the shows there was like, I knew it was y'all's last show, so I didn't want to cut it off. I wanted to like bless that man wherever he is. But yeah. So to answer your question, a lot of people in the Lubbock scene, and a couple trips down to Austin at that time for South by. That was around 2008, 2009 that we would visit, and it was just be like, yes, this is the coolest. We got to get down here eventually. Yeah, South by. I mean, at that time, South by was massive too. It was even like, you would be like, I remember I was staying at a co-op, and like Andrew WK was playing, and like just bizarre. Like you would see the biggest acts in the tiniest places, like warehouses everywhere had free shows.
And now you played in it. You were literally. I guess in a sense, it's almost surreal that you used to go there as a spectator. Now you're performing there as an artist, and I think that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean more that you're. I guess the people who inspired you rather is, or rather you going into venues and constantly kind of observing, like I guess like you mentioned earlier, to kind of see what you can implement into what you do. Is that something fair to say?
Yeah, because I had been going to see shows since I was in high school, and like bigger acts though. Like when I grew up in Katy, Texas, outside of Houston, and we would drive into Houston to see like The Strokes or Radiohead or like Green Day and stuff like that. And it never really felt like, oh, this is something we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, my brother and I were constantly making like albums. Like we would record songs all the time in high school and be like, oh, it's our next album. But like it was just like a little burn CD we would make of like all of our songs. Um, I feel like I was always more obsessed with that, the art of like putting together a record, even though I didn't know how to play music at all. We would always do that, but like seeing it up close, DIY music, house shows, um, people that I knew doing it, and seeing like having just talked to them, and then they're on stage and like they have transformed into this like other person, like that was really
Yeah.
inspiring. And that's what it feels like, because I never act the way I do on stage off stage. Like it's not my personality. Like I don't uh or maybe that's the real personality. I don't know what it is, but there's
You're like
something
Batman right
really,
here, right? It's like, are you wearing the mask or you are the mask? You know.
I mean, I don't know.
So,
Like there's something to be said for people that get up and like play their songs and like they're just very, they're exactly like they are off stage.
yeah.
But I think there's different types of performance, and the performance that I'm drawn to is like, um I think I'm an introverted person in general, but I think and I think part of that is like I don't feel comfortable like taking over conversations, being the center of a conversation. If there's like a group of people that's just chatting at a bar, I just kind of like, I mean, I like to joke around with my friends and everything, but like suddenly a room full of strangers, if you're given a microphone and they're like expecting you to be the loudest voice in the room, suddenly you have like permission.
Yeah.
And to me, I think the thing that clicked in my head in college, seeing those shows that inspired me, it was like, um, there's so much you can do with that moment, with that opportunity on a stage. You don't have to just stand there. You don't have to only just, a lot of tons of bands that we saw at that time, it was just like, well, it's pretentious to dress up. It's pretentious to do anything but play the music. Like they would just be wearing cargo shorts and a t-shirt. And there's nothing wrong with that, like that's its own thing. But I was always like, why not like make it more interesting and like, so
Yeah, and I think you killed that
yeah.
there. I think it's totally something that, again, kind of going back to the whole thing. You guys have a whole, from head to toe. You guys have the tops, the bottoms, and even the shoes. You guys even customize the shoes to have the Big Bill logo on it. So, and again, you guys have such a persona on stage where it's just so much fun. And I think that's what attracted me a lot, was because, like you mentioned, there's always that kind of that stigma where it's like, and I guess kind of like I mentioned earlier, where it's more that a band is just there to perform the music, strictly perform the music, and just kind of that's almost it they can do. But it's like you guys had way much more into that. Again, from the inside jokes of the whole Easy Tiger to being, I don't know if this was true, being banned from the chess club or something. I remember you yelling that out there. It's just
Yeah,
kind of
we
like you guys were just always just doing something and entertaining. You guys were just so much fun to watch, and I think that's something that a lot of, again, I keep saying it, but a lot of artists can't do. It's more that they just get on stage, perform, maybe talk to the audience just a couple times, but you guys go throughout the whole time. Again, even including the audience. I think the most memorable thing for my good friend Kyle, like he was like, dude, when we got out, I can't believe the main singer was hugging me throughout the show and putting his arm around me and singing with me. It was so much fun. And
mm,
I'm like, dude, it's because it's like people like that just love what they do. And I think that's something that, you've done correctly. I think that's a formula that's working.
well, thank you. It's definitely I mean, we have a spreadsheet of all of our shows, and we've played 280 shows. And I think if I didn't have this record of how many shows we played, I would have thought we'd played more than that, because it's been 10 years. But like, um, yeah, I think like every show is an experiment, and we have always been really analytical about our performances. And it's like, well, that felt off. Like, what was wrong? And like when it just is like a really good vibe, you just think about like, okay, what was it about that made it so good? And sometimes you just can't find it, and you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna feel awkward, and this isn't gonna this isn't going to feel right. But like if the vibe is really good, you feel loose and like mischievous, like you just get into this kind of vibe where it feels really like we're we want to make you laugh, we want to make you like surprised, and um we want to make fun of stuff and just kind of be goofy, and then it feels good and the audience like um sees that we're not just um that we're kind of fucking with them, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it comes from like the music is a little sardonic, and I think I've always felt like over the years, if I ever try to say anything sincere, people laugh anyway because it just like because of the vibe from our music, they're like, oh, he's joking, or like they're being sarcastic. And so like if I try to say anything nice about a band or whatever, they're really great. People are like, it feels like it's coming out of my mouth sarcastically, and I don't even mean to. So I
Yeah.
think we just kind of lean into that, and we've had a lot of conversations about it. And I think you mentioned Alan, our bassist, who's our former drummer, and how he and I. By the way, he used to be our drummer for many years, and now he's only this past year on bass. And I'm really happy about it because people do get to see his facial expressions up close and
It's so
his.
much fun. Yeah, I think there's something with it.
Um,
I he was just staring right into my soul when he was doing that. Like I
yeah,
felt like he was just staring past me, and I'm like, I don't know. It
that's
was just like it was so much fun to see that.
that was probably when we were covering Human Fly. He likes to. I think the bass part is so simple on that song that he likes to like just act like he is in a catatonic state, and he starts drooling sometimes. But but yeah, the costumes were designed by our friend Sloan Lenz of a band called Lord Friday the 13th, and they are really great. And her brother Felix helped design our logo, which is stamped all over our costumes. We definitely like for a long time we just kind of didn't have anything like that, but we would always try to dress uniquely, you know,
Mhm.
like we're getting into character in a way. And I for years wore a big white like Andy Warhol wig, uh and I would paint on like a thick unibrow mustache, just a unibrow, not a mustache. A mustache for the eyes. And that was kind of me getting into this kind of like I really don't know why, but it felt like I could get to this ugly side of myself, I guess, by kind of like doing this kind of character. And uh, then I think we started to be like, well, we don't want to be too gimmicky, you know, and there's kind of a line, and I think you don't. I don't know. You don't want it to just be like, well, the songs or whatever, but they have these gimmicks that are really funny. Like it's not really what you want it to be known as. Like we would bristle because people used to always say like, oh, Big Bill's so quirky. And that word started to really annoy us because like quirky just doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
But over the pandemic, we were like, let's do like an official costume. Like let's really like put some energy into this. And so that's when we reached out to Sloan, and she designs and makes clothing, and understands our vibe, understands the punk aesthetic, and
Mhm.
really helped us come up with something really cool for. So, and I don't know what we were wearing when you saw us, but we have an offstage tracksuit uniform, and then we
Yeah,
have our
yeah.
onstage multicolored kind of like performance costume.
Yeah, I think you were
Although,
putting that costume right there. I think you had them for both times you were wearing them on stage, and then
mhm,
I believe this time I saw you with the tracksuit was after Easy Tiger. You had left. I guess when you're done performing, you had left to go get I guess some drinks with the guys, and you were wearing the tracksuit. So
yeah,
again,
we like to run behind stage, change back into our tracksuit, and then appear at the merch table so that it's like, um, I just think that's fun. I don't know if there's any other reason for it. Uh, yeah, it just creates like a cool, uh, like I've seen bands kind of like dress all alike in the past, and I've always been like that is cool. They went to the extra effort of constructing clothes that like make them into a gang, like into like a really cohesive unit, and that's fun.
Right on. And kind of, we're still branching off of that conversation. You have such a unique name for your band, Big Bill, right? So where did that where did that why did you choose that name, and is there possibly a story behind that name?
Well, we definitely have like wondered if we chose well, because there are a lot of bands. There's a lot of blues singers over the years. Big Bill, Brunzi. There's a famous labor activist, I believe, is Big Bill Haywood. There's a lot of like small uh there's a lot of like other artists that call themselves Big Bill, but I haven't found a band that calls themselves Big Bill. So I guess it's unique only in that way. But the story behind it, and the story behind it is that my brother, like I said, was a pedicab driver when we first moved to Austin in like 2012, and he had all sorts of disgusting stories from people that would ride with him, especially like old white businessmen that would like be out on the town in their suits and like waving around $100 bills and like asking for the most horrible things that they're looking for. Like it was just like the stories he would tell me. It's like probably similar to any other like cab driver. Like you just see this underbelly of society, which really is like the wealthy white guys. Like that's the underbelly. But there was one of them, I think he was a frat guy that was like approaching a bunch of pedicabs, like, who can break a big bill? And he's like waving around $100. Like it's this big, like, who can break this big bill? Like he's showing off, and they all would just laugh and they're like, oh my God, this guy. And so it became an inside joke, I guess. And we we started calling ourselves that, thinking, oh, we'll come up with something better. And then eventually we're like, well, if you don't come up with something else by our first show, we'll just stick with that. And we didn't. I think the only other thing I thought of was one time we were lugging our gear out of our apartment, and this guy walked past us in the parking lot and was like, he saw us holding all these instruments, and he's like, hey, Austin dudes, what's up? And I was like, hey, that's a good band name. Hey, Austin dudes, what's up? But it didn't really roll off the tongue like Big Bill. That was just easier to say. And it's fun to say, Big Bill. And I like that it doesn't really have a distinct meaning. Um, I like that it's not pinned down like to like a pun, or it's just kind of like, it's kind of boring in a way. So it can kind of become anything. Uh,
It's awesome. I think again, at first thought Big Bill. I thought you were talking about a bigger entity. Someone,
yeah.
so, but then now that I know, it might now. I guess now that I have kind of a backstory, now I'm thinking of a bill, a big bill in that case, right? But it's interesting. I think names can have different meanings to a lot of people, and I think that's interesting. Perhaps maybe people can
Yeah.
have their own perception of what it is.
Yeah. And there's like a duck bill. It's all, there's different ways it could go. There's different ways it could be interpreted. And I think that's kind of the intention. Yeah.
No, so I guess focusing now you as a person, is there anything you like to do outside of music, hobby, sports, attending events? I know we talked about a whole attending events, music wise, but is there stuff that you like to do? Perhaps, I don't know, you like maybe gardening, like you were mentioning, fixing your backyard or something like that.
Yeah. I have been growing plants, and I've been building a nature trail in this forested area. This property my wife and I are renting. Well, we rent this house, but like it has some areas next to it that the landlord doesn't mind if we build nature trails in. So I've been, throughout the pandemic, that was my hobby, going out there after work and just kind of um, losing myself in like sawing down trees and like ripping out weeds, and it's really fun. It's really cathartic. Yeah. Other than that, just music and drawing. I like to do some art. I drew our new T-shirt. It has a drawing of all the band and some quotes from our songs and stuff. Um, yeah, watching movies. Basic stuff,
Right on, right on. So
but usually music.
there you go. And I guess so. Now speaking, so let's just say music wasn't a thing, perhaps in your life. Where do you perhaps see yourself at?
Um, hmm, I don't know. It's hard to imagine. Um, Without music at all, I mean, it's such a big part of my life. It's hard to even imagine.
No, yeah, definitely.
But I wouldn't have met most of the people who are my friends now. It's really kind of surreal when you think about stuff like that, because choosing to start a band, especially when you're new to a place, it's like, how do you meet people? I mean, it's hard to meet people, especially as the older you get, the harder it gets to make new friends.
Mhm.
Like in college, it is pretty easy, but then after college, it immediately gets really hard. Just to let you know.
Oh yeah, thanks
um,
for letting me know that. Right.
make a lot of friends now, because everybody gets so busy, and everybody, there's a few years after college where it's still fun, and everybody's having fun and wanting to make friends. But then, like, once people start moving away, like the people that were in the music scene when we first started in Austin, some of them are still in it. Um, but a ton of bands have moved away, or dissolved, or took on careers that like took up all their time, or started families that took up all their time. I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
it was more of the if it wasn't for music at the time, where do you see yourself at?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine. I would be a completely different person.
Do you think perhaps maybe you'd still be in the art somehow?
I would hope so, because I feel like most myself when I'm able to be creative and like lighthearted and like kind of joking around. Um, but I have always thought about whatever job I have as like my day job. And if I didn't have music, that would just be my job. And that sounds terrible.
No, you definitely. Yeah. So, um, still kind of going on that thing, I guess kind of still talking about the band rather. I don't know if you would consider us getting out of the pandemic now, or perhaps rather maybe it's looking a little bit more brighter than it was 2 years ago when it started. So, given that right there, how has your band been hit by the pandemic, and if so, have you tried to overcome it? I mean, it seems like it was very successful for you guys, especially coming right out of South by. It was so much fun, and you had again the whole hype train that was going for it, and I'm pretty excited to see where this project goes.
Well, thank you. Well, we've been fortunate that no one has seriously sick or anything, or lost too much income because of it. But a lot has changed for us through the pandemic, I think, because I mean, we were all set to play like a full week of South by shows 2020. Um, our record was already done that we're about to put out. It was done at the end of 2019. So it has changed our trajectory, probably, because that record would have probably come out a lot sooner. Um, like once COVID really hit, like we stopped rehearsing for a while. Like it was almost 10 years of like 2 practices a week. Like we would always try to make it at least 2 practices a week for a long time, because we were like, well, we have to be really sick. We have to be a really good band. And we have to push ourselves really hard. Like practice until it's not fun, you know. And that really changed with the pandemic. That all that momentum went away. Um, my brother and his partner, they moved out to like a flower farm south of Austin, and then eventually moved to Florida. And then like he kind of like took his leave of the band during the pandemic. Um, it's kind of crazy. So our drummer Alan had taken a job in Minnesota and moved up there and already left the band. Um, and we had replaced him on drums with Jeff Olson, who is an incredible drummer, and we're lucky to have him. So it was me. Alex was still on bass. Cody was still on guitar, and Jeff was on drums for 2 shows. We played in that lineup, and then COVID hit, and pretty soon Alan's job was like, well, you can just do this virtually. And so his wife was still here in Austin, with because they hadn't sold their house. And so he just moved back to Austin. And he was like, hey, can I come back to the band? And we were like, well, Cody's actually leaving. So maybe Alex can switch from bass to guitar, and because that's his main instrument anyway. And Alan, you can take over on bass. And so he was our drummer for years and now plays bass. And so if it weren't for the pandemic, yeah, our lineup would be very different. Like maybe Cody would have eventually moved away anyway, but Alan would be out of the band. And uh and so yeah, I think that's probably the main thing that the pandemic did. But I mean, selfishly, it gave us kind of time, like I said, to with no shows, we could focus on stuff like making crazy stage uniforms and stuff like that.
Yeah, and again, you guys, I feel like you guys pretty much took advantage of that, and now it worked out well for you guys' favor. I mean, again, I wasn't there prior to everything, but seeing you guys live, especially with all these, I think you not that I think I know you guys gave me the the what is it called, the song lists, the song list you guys had, and it was, I went out looking back at it before I got here. It was so much music you had, but it shows that again you guys pushed through that, and I think that's something that a lot of bands did try to, but especially coming from you and much more smaller band, wanting the dedication that's even being pushed there. I think that's something that's very awesome. And again, I think you guys totally killed it. I think the way you guys had it now, or then rather, when I saw you guys, it was so much fun to see that. So I think that you guys totally took advantage of the time and effort and did that well. I think that's something that I couldn't have done better myself, even if I tried.
Well, I
So
mean, like it's some songs on that set list are really like many years old. So um it's kind of like being a chef and like spending many years trying new dishes and then like only keeping the ones that every time are like a big hit. Like we'll try out songs live, and if they just don't click, we just don't play them. So it like,
yeah,
yeah, it does help to have, sometimes it's frustrating to grow as slowly as we have, but it is like consistent growth. And I think it's more sustainable than just getting popular with your first recording,
yeah,
which everybody wants to do. But I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise to like slowly acquire more fans, to slowly get to work on your craft, and to kind of have like a back catalog, even though in the wider world of music we're essentially unknown, um, that we can kind of like pick from, and there's plenty of old songs we don't play anymore that we could like pick back up, or like play faster, or like there was a whole period where most of our set was improvised. So we've gone through all sorts of crazy eras where we're like, yeah, let's just get really weird again, like it's getting too
yeah.
stale. Like let's just call out a song and then just let it morph into something else. And And so it's all fun. It's all
Right,
fun.
right on, and still kind of going off from that, um, looking especially again, you just recently believe just you called it a break for a while, I believe on your Instagram where you went ahead and you mentioned that I believe Jeff's shoes or Alex's shoes were stolen or something, so they had you find them or something, but you had to stop, you had to like put a little pause on the tours for a while for the time being. So yeah, so you again, you guys just went off all these tours, and how has it shaped you and perhaps put the music scene into perspective for you guys? I mean, kind of the idea
Um,
where you're like you mentioned, you were experimenting with every single show, so I guess one up the next show. So is that something fair to say, perhaps on all that end?
well, as far as touring, that touring is a very eye-opening experience. I mean, we've done two very DIY tours of the West Coast and the East Coast, and a little bit into Canada, which is so beautiful and so fun. But I think, I mean, everywhere we went was DIY performance spaces, basically, that we booked ourselves, and I think it's really eye opening, to see all those other scenes, and just kind of like find your people in every city, around the country. Um, I wish we could just do that forever. Honestly, just keep touring. Like when we got back from the last one we did was in 2018. We went for a month and a half. Uh, by the time we got home, we were like, let's just keep booking more shows and keep going. Like it felt like we could just do this forever. Um, it's so fun. I mean, but and then you also get really, really tight, like because you're playing every night. And that's one cool thing that I like about South by, because it feels like you're on tour, but without having to drive for 6 to 8 hours every day. Um, and so just the cool part.
Right on. Yeah. And that was fun. I think that was cool. And again, kind of going back to you guys individually or as a band, you guys have such an eccentric taste. Like again, the whole characters you have going on, little personalities, so much fun. So perhaps, do you have any stories you'd like to share, or memorable moments on stage you've had at the concerts you've been to, or the tours rather?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, some of the shows we played were like empty, you know, on tour. Um, but some of them are really, really cool. I remember, this isn't like an eccentric story, but we played in Boise, Idaho, as they say Boise. Everybody else says Boise, but in that city they pronounce it Boise. We played like in a basement, and it was, I think, shocking to us how lit that party was, because like we played a lot of shows where it was like, okay, like who's this band? But like when we played at that basement, they were like ready to party. And it felt like the scene was when I was in school in Lubbock, where everybody knew each other. Um, and then everybody, when then we finished the music, like walked upstairs and went into the backyard, and we're like lugging our gear back to our van. And when we got outside, everybody in the backyard like turned over and like started clapping for us. And like that definitely has never happened. Um, and that's a memorable moment that popped out at me when you asked that question. I mean, we definitely got into a lot of shenanigans, maybe that I shouldn't get into, but there was a one time we played in Denver, and like it was kind of a, well, it was a fun time, but one thing that happened was we were supposed to stay with this guy, and then we couldn't get a hold of him. And I probably should have made a connection like in the days ahead of time, but I was like, we've been able to reach everybody so far. But when I called him like all day, and I was like, yo man, where are you? And he wasn't getting back to us, so we were like, all right, we just got to find a hotel or something. but there was no hotel room available. We called everywhere. We were driving around. It was getting later and later and later, and we were just like, look, we just have to like sleep in the van. Like this is gonna have to happen, and it's not comfortable to do that. So we kind of like parked in a neighborhood. We were like, let's find a place where we can be kind of discreet. And like a couple of us, my brother and I slept on the street, like next to the van, like between the van and the curb.
Mhm.
And then uh we got woken up by a firefighter that was like, he kind of was like shaking us, and he's like, yo, y'all better get going. The police are probably coming next. We're like, oh shit. It's so disturbing to be like, someone's like waking you up in a full uniform. Um, and then we had the guy. There was a guy that was oh yeah, our drummer knew somebody that like hooked us up, and like we got to go on a tour of this dispensary that morning for free. And but we were exhausted, and after that tour we were like, we need to sleep somewhere. And so we went to a dollar cinema, like where they play the old, like the movies that are like a month old.
Mhm.
And they were playing A Wrinkle in Time,
Yeah.
that movie. And we just bought tickets for that, went into the theater, and then like passed out in the seats of the theater. And that was great. I mean, that was the best sleep ever. And I would occasionally wake up and just be so confused by what was going on the screen. That is a weird movie. I don't know. I haven't seen the whole thing to this day, but like seeing like little clips of it with all these like fantasy creatures and stuff, it's like, this is a crazy experience.
You're like, am I tripping out or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. I could go on and on. I mean, tour is so memorable.
Yeah.
Traveling, seeing new cities for the first time.
So
Um,
yeah, so kind of still going on that, you have your fan, like you mentioned, your fan base is growing. So why are they so unique, and why are they the best out of the rest? Perhaps.
yes. Well, I feel very lucky that anybody comes to our shows ever. And I feel like when we first started playing shows, and it was like, I would look into the crowd and be like, wait, I don't know that person. Like, that is not one of my friends.
Yeah.
But they're here to watch us, and they like are singing along with us like that. Um, I feel so lucky and grateful that that ever happens. But over the years, we've definitely had people kind of like, it's like I keep seeing the same face. Like, this person is like, likes our band, even though we're not breaking through to the national scene or anything. Locally and in little pockets, like people have latched onto us. And I feel like the thing that usually is in common with people that like us maybe is not always, but like maybe an outsider status. I feel like we kind of represent that. And I I feel like the biggest compliment we receive is when people are like, I was really depressed. I was like borderline suicidal. And then I came to see you guys, and that was the first time I smiled in a long time, or stuff like that. Is very sobering, and very like, holy shit, like it's surreal. I don't know. But I appreciate anybody that listens to us, or that tells people about us. I think that they are smarter than most fans, cooler than most fans,
They
uh,
have good tasting music, by the way, too, right? I'd say
better
that.
looking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're
They
like just the best people.
it puts some more a hair on your chest, right, when you listen to Big Bill and everything. But yeah, I mean, again, it's so much fun. I think that when again, it goes back to what, again, I was looking for someone to listen to when you guys were performing at the chess club, and I was like, there was just I remember seeing one guy getting so into it. he was right in front of you. You're right in front of him. He was like just getting into it. I'm like, these people are so fun. And again, I have a video. I'll send it to you after this. But it was just like you guys were just having so much fun on stage. You guys like it felt so. I don't know. I guess there can be no words to describe, but fun and so eccentric. Because I'm a person who loves music. I grew up where, um, again, kind of almost in the sense like a conservative town where
Yeah.
everyone was more of that like if you don't act a certain way, if you don't do this, you're gonna be considered weird. But I
Hmm.
mean, and it would hurt because it's like you didn't have no chance to grow up, and music was something that to me was just so much fun, something that I connected to. Maybe you can agree on this term, but music can be perceived differently from people. Like
Yeah.
perhaps kind of I guess kind of going to what you're mentioning about like for example like the band name. I perceived it as someone as a bigger entity, and then when you told me the story, oh no, it's about someone was like a big bill. It's like no, it's like things can have different meanings, and I feel like that's such a beautiful thing, especially the project that you made here. It cheered me up a lot. It was I'm not even gonna lie, it was probably one of the bigger highlights of South by for me. Going to watch your band,
Oh yeah.
and I went again. My friend at the time was working because I was working the Violet Crown there for the theater side. So my friend there, that was my day off, and well, my friend when he got out of his work, I'm like, hey, on Friday we're gonna go watch Big Bill, and we're like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
okay. So you guys played at the Easy Tiger, which I mean we didn't have a car there, but we walked about a good mile and a half to go see you guys. I
Wow.
told him I was like, dude,
Yeah.
you have to see this. You have to see this band. Like it's not. Maybe you have to. And we went there and we had so much fun. We were sweating by the time the whole thing finished. Because
Yeah.
even then, like these guys tapped us in the back of our shoulder. He's like, "Hey, do you want to mosh to this song?" And we're like, "Fuck yeah, we'll do it." And it was just
That's
me,
very
my friend, and
polite.
two other people just moshing in there, and it was just so much fun because it was like you guys have such I don't know. It was just a lot of fun. It brightened my day a lot, especially because that day was much more that I really wasn't doing much, and having you guys looking forward to that your event. It was just I couldn't get enough of it, and that's why I had to go see it again. And I brought my friend, and now every time I'm on Spotify, you always see, for example, I think that other one you covered Coma in German,
Yeah, we did
and
a German version. Yeah.
yeah, and all the time now. He doesn't even understand German, but I see him sing the German version of Coma there on Spotify, and it's just like a
That's
lot of
cool.
it's just so
Yeah.
fun. Like, and you have it's just an exciting thing, and I think that maybe I can speak on for everyone, but it's just you guys were just amazing, and I think that's something
Well,
that not a lot of bands can achieve for sure.
it's definitely like when I was, I mean, how old are you? You're like,
22.
that, I feel like that age, when I was that age, like, I remember similarly like life altering shows, like I saw No Age, which is like a two-piece performed in Lubbock, and like there was just like these shows that like we would talk about for weeks, and like it doesn't happen as often. I mean, maybe some people can manage that throughout their entire life, but like I feel like a lot of people drift away from that, at least or they get jaded from that like moment of this is something so different and I love this and this is my jam, like it's like there's all sorts of music out there, but this one is for me.
Right.
I as a music fan always loved that feeling because it's like in such a fucked up world where it's like capitalism, make money, hustle, do this, do that. Like it's such a relief to like find people that just like to uh you know connect to kind of the mischievous, like more absurd side of life. And I will say that I think we are also fortunate that the cool thing about not being like a big famous band is that the audience is often people that are there by accident, and that's a fun challenge, especially during South by. Like at our normal shows, at our normal local gigs, it's like at this point, a lot of those people do know us because we're like advertising to them to come to the show. But during South by and on tour, oftentimes, at least at our level, it's like people that are curious or people that are just there with a friend or people that are there to see a different band. And so they're kind of like skeptical, and to kind of like turn that person into the person that is like super into it by the end of the show
Yeah.
is like a really fun challenge. And uh yeah, I won't say anything else about that, but that is
Yeah, no,
I think it,
definitely, and
yeah.
you killed it. You literally, again, I don't want to sound very egotistical, but I'm very picky with my music, and I think my music, objectively from my or subjectively rather, I don't know how we use it, but more that I think my music, I love it a lot. It's something that I just think it's the best for my in my opinion, and it's like I'm again the whole idea of being picky. When I went into that venue, it was just so much like I was like, who the hell are these people? And you guys were just so much fun. You guys literally went ahead. Again, it goes back to the idea where you were being so it was so electric there. You ran out of the venue. You were I don't know what you were doing, but you ran out of the venue or doing something, and you came back and started singing again. I'm like, that is such a memorable thing, and just not even that, but the music just sounds, especially like the one I'm obsessed with right now is "Trick Everybody" and "Coma." Those are
Mm.
like those are my two like right now that's always on repeat, and it's just those ones right there were just so much fun to listen to, and I just think that you guys killed it, especially the one song though, which we're actually getting to songs, was "Who Wants Salad" or "I Want Salad." It's like you started singing that, and I was like, where is that on Spotify? Because it was such a
Yeah.
fun thing to have, but
Yeah,
um,
what do you want on your salad? That one's on
yeah,
there.
yeah. So we go ahead and I guess it kind of leads to this right now. You know, how does a song come into existence for your band, and is there possibly some themes you like to follow?
um Well, there's not one method. And like, what do you want on your salad? My brother wrote, he was working at uh it was like a deli on the UT campus, and he, you know, they served salads and sandwiches, and I guess he thought it was funny. I don't know if he actually would say this, but he thought it was funny to be like, what do you want on your salad? To him, it was such a rude way to put it. Like, uh or just kind of abrasive. And I think as we like refined it, it's like 90% of it he wrote, but then I think there was a couple verse parts that I, you know, added. And we kind of were like getting philosophical about it. Like, what do you want on your salad is like, what do you want to do with your life is like, it kind of represents like choices you make. And like, well, what, you know, that was kind of a theme of our music at that time, was like uh being unafraid to just kind of like do what you want to do. And you know, you might want something on your salad that's very different than the next person, but that's totally okay. You know, just like ask yourself, what do you want? And so at the end of the song, we're not even saying salad, we're just saying like, what do you want, what do you want?
Yeah,
And it's
and
kind
dude,
of just
again,
like
it's you're going down
we're
the
trying
rabbit
to
hole
like
there.
grabbing you by the face, like, what do you want, you know? And so um I think a lot of our songs, you could view them as very silly, like this is like, is this children's music, you know? Or you can kind of see like a darker underside. And I think we try to like toe the line. Because little kids do like our music. That shows when there's a little kid. Like, I love that because they are usually dancing around and they get it, you know, like they get that silliness is not just uh like it's not, you can still be profound and be silly. And I think little kids can connect with that. Like most of the songs, either Cody or I would like write a basic like core of it, and then we would all kind of tinker on it. And now it's like some of the songs I write a full demo and like record a demo on at my house, and then uh Other times it'll like we have a song that we haven't played live yet or anything like that, but we recently recorded a song that we wrote at a practice where Jeff, our drummer, couldn't make it, and so we just were like, well, let's just come up with a song idea, and it had no lyrics, but we were like, we had been running through all these riff ideas, so we like picked some of those riffs and like put them together, and then took like this whole demo, and then I across the next few weeks like wrote lyrics to it, and then we recorded it, and then we maybe I shouldn't say too much yet because that one's like probably far from coming out, but we asked a friend of ours that is a rapper, I won't say who it is yet, but to be on it, and it's like it's a really cool new place for me because we haven't really had guest performers on our songs in the past, and kind of like opening it up a little, being more open to other people's ideas and just kind of letting that coexist with our own ideas. It's exciting. So yeah, the process is never the same, but we're always just kind of looking to refine our ideas to the point where they appeal to us and kind of like pop, and we definitely tend to belabor our songs and spend a lot of time debating like, is this part interesting, like we need to like come up with a whole new thing here, like
Yeah.
until we're all like really psyched on it. So
Yeah, and again, I think I'm excited for that. Who knows what the mystery rapper is, but I know I'll be listening to that for sure. But kind of now, still on
pretty
the
great.
music, I'm gonna give you the hardest question I think I've ever given anyone.
Okay.
So you have a whole discography of music, all the songs. They're like your children, right? Would you say? So
I see.
if you only had to pick three children, three songs, what would it be and why?
Wow.
And it can be from your, I mean, for sure, obviously your past discography, but if you want to, go ahead and tease a lot more people about your newest album, perhaps, it's totally up to you.
Hmm. Well, I mean, probably the song that has lasted the uh that has kind of like uh stuck around is 2 weeks. We always end our show with that because it kind of just gets the people going, and for many years that was the song that people would like connect with because they'd be like, I just quit my job and then I saw y'all and then you play that song, and it felt like fate that I heard you play that song because I just quit
Mhm.
my job. Um, which I think sidebar, I think one secret to writing a song people will like is just think of a phrase that people always say and then just make a song about it. But uh yeah, I mean, I think because that song I wrote about uh partly that phrase just kind of like came to me, but then like the verses of it are about like this car accident I was in at the time, uh with our at the time bass player Dave, who started the band with us. I was driving his car and totaled his car, and because I fell asleep when I was driving home on Mopac after a show one time. But and so to me, the song is not just about quitting a job, but uh like saying like I am not gonna do that other stuff that I felt like I had to do. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to be true to myself uh from here on out. Like it's kind of like a mission statement to be like, if I'm an artist, I'm gonna be an artist. I'm not gonna keep uh putting up with this these demands that society wants to put on me, even though that's kind of a fantasy at times because we all have to like sometimes do what we have to do to make money. um So that one probably would be in the top three, but it's hard not to be excited about the newest songs. And there's a song off the new record that we've been playing live called Society Man that is really I'm proud of. My brother and I kind of trade off. It's kind of like our it's kind of like our Beastie Boys song in a way. It's like we're not exactly rapping, but it's like close to that. It's like our own version of that, and it has a cool sound to it. And then another one off the new record. Well, this new single I'm really excited about. I think because the first two songs we've released off this album, Coma, we put out as a single like last year, and then we just put out Forget About Monday, and those are really cool. But I feel like they both sound like the big bill that people already know, those that know us. But this next song, Almost Everybody, is like a different lane than I think any song we've put out. So I'm excited because I'm excited to see how people react, because we've done a song quite like that. It's like it's more, it has a kind of like, I don't want to say that it sounds like a Weezer song, but it's kind of more in that with like a Weezer kind of ballady thing almost, but it's not really punk rock. It's more like uh rock, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, yeah, that'll round out the top three. It's hard to choose, like you said. It's
They're all your children, man. They're just now.
Yeah.
You're kind of putting some of them to the side now, right? But
I mean, some of the old ones, it's like I'm like, yeah, that's the choice I made. That's weird, Like I can't even relate to the person that wrote some of the early songs, but
yeah.
um, yeah, those are my 2 weeks, Society Man, and I have to mention the new single.
There you go. So, so right now, besides you listening to your band and whatnot, is there any other projects you're listening to? Any other bands you right now you're currently jamming out to that's on repeat?
Um, I wish I thought about this more. I mean, locally, there's so many acts that I love, and so there's kind of like two answers, because there's like, I mean, like really been into uh like Chucky Black and DZ Brown, and his like he's got like a group, uh Ghetto Gala or Ghetto Gala, Ghetto
Mhm.
Gala, I guess is how you say it. um is just stunning. And I mean, there's like, as far as like the punk bands, we've always been inspired by like Sailor Poon, who are our buds, and like Pleasure Venom, and we played a show recently with a band called Bond Breaker that was really great. um God, we love like such a wide variety of local bands. Sun June is
Mhm.
incredible. um Now I'm gonna forget some of our closest friends, but yeah. And then like, as far as like me personally, um I don't tend to like listen to a lot of music that sounds like us. I tend to listen to more like uh introspective stuff, and like I love Elliott Smith, and I think the new Beach House record is
Oh yeah.
amazing. There's a song on it, uh and I've been saying this to people, because I'm a huge Elliott Smith freak, and every now and then I'll read about an artist that's compared to Elliott Smith, and I get excited, but then it's always a letdown, because uh, I don't think many people understand like the complexity of his genius, and it's like not just that it's like sad music. It's like melodically interesting, and the lyrics are just mind blowing. And but there's this one of those new Beach House songs. I think it's called "Another Year Around" or "Another Go Round,"
Yeah.
uh, and it's like this is an Elliott Smith song. Like this feels like they resurrected his vibe, and um, so that record is incredible. And I love Big Thief. Their
Oh,
uh,
yes. Yeah.
their new record is stunning, and also somewhat related to that because they helped produce a record for our friend Tyler Jordan. He has a band called Good Looks, and they have a new record out that is we're really excited about, and super proud of those guys. And like they're going through a crazy ordeal because our friend Jake Ames, who's in their band, he's their guitar player. They just had a record release last week, and as he was leaving the show, he got hit by a car, and like so he's been recovering. Thankfully, it seems like he's on the road to recovery, and everything's going to be all right. But yeah, and he's got a great band called the Stacks. I mean, uh, like there's telenovela. Like I'm getting back to local bands again, but like I know I'm gonna forget so many that I love, but yeah, we could just leave it at that.
Right on. And I guess kind of I guess a guilty question for myself is more, do you collect vinyls as well? Like, see, Oscar's laughing. He knows I ask everyone all the time. That's like a question that I have all the time. But I have literally, I'm not even joking, over 100 vinyls back at my house in South
Mhm.
Texas. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
almost a religion for me to have vinyls with me everywhere I go. In fact, I always tell everyone this thing, which it's a very dangerous thing. You go to, I'm pretty sure you know where Waterloo is at.
Mhm.
I go there, I could spend hours on end there.
Yeah, and
I put on
and
some earphones. I put on some earphones, and I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I start going on Spotify, and I'll be there listening,
yeah,
like just, and I'm there with like what I'm like today. I'm only gonna spend $30. I ended up leaving, checking out over $150 or something like that. Kind of now then living the whole broke college kid life. Not knowing how to maintain my money at all because it goes directly to that. But it's so much
yes,
fun. It's so much fun to do that. So I guess now directing the question to you: do you collect at all?
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of slowed down in the past few years, but yeah, I've spent many, many times at End of an Ear and Waterloo. I used to live a lot closer to Waterloo Records, and I would go check out the new arrivals used bin.
Yeah.
I would always go straight there because I mean the used records are cheaper, and it's kind of like you never know what you're gonna get. Like uh and there would always be a few people there kind of like jostling for space, and it's like, well, I want to see the day that because it's like it's kind of cool. I don't know if you ever go to that bin, but it's like labeled by the day of the week it came in.
Hmm.
So you're like, oh, it's Saturday. So I'm looking at the Saturday bin, and they just dropped these in. And so it's like the pick of the litter. It's like someone just dropped off their whole collection. And it's like, you'll see like 10 records in a row by one artist. And you're like, oh my God, someone had collected all these.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it already. In fact, I believe you mentioned it earlier to me that on April 29th, you have almost everybody, the single coming out. And it's off of the album Public Freakout compilation. Now, you still, again, the whole idea that your record's coming out right now, or soon rather. Um, did you want to go a little bit more in depth with that? Give the audience a little bit more of an insight to it? What we should be expecting?
Um, well, I think it's easily the best thing we've ever put out. And I'm really excited to have it finally out there. Like I said, we were done recording it. It was all mastered, I want to say by December 2019. Like it was uh and we even had the art, like we had everything ready for a long time. And so I'm really excited to see it in my hands, like on vinyl with like we've seen the cover art for a long time, but the back art, like we had that done a long time ago. I can't wait to see that printed out. So I'm probably more excited than anybody. And it's I think I think people are gonna like it. It's 30 minutes long. Or maybe even less. Like it might be it's 10, but we like a 10-song record. That's roughly 30 minutes. To me, like I mean, like you asked what I'm listening to, and I did say two double records, but like
Yeah.
I also love a good 30-minute record. And I feel like we've packed a lot of different sounds in there. There's not any filler. Like um we spent all of 20, because we put out our last record, I want to say at the end of 2017, and we spent all of 2018 just workshopping songs. um uh and we had at one point like over 50 demos that we then whittled down to like the ones we wanted to record. And we spent all of 2019 recording those 10 songs, but instead of doing 10 at once, we did two at a time. And so it's actually five different producers. So we would do two songs with one producer, across maybe 2 or 3 weekends, and then really focus on those two songs. And then like a month or two later, we would have another uh, session booked with a different producer to focus on another two songs. And then we kind of like arranged the order of the record. And it really is cool because we're getting different sounds from different producers, like ears and like what they like to do, how they mix and everything. So it gives it a kind of like vibe that we really like on our record, which is the like they're coming from different places, yet they kind of still all work together because uh there's something, there's like a through line. It's I mean, I'm sure you can relate to like making playlists, and there's an art to that. And in a way, that's the most fun part of making a record, is once you've already recorded the songs and then you're deciding the order, and
Mhm.
like trying out every possible combination. It's like, no, this song has to start the record. Like we had, not to get too into it, but the song that we ended up putting last, for a long time we assumed would be first, because it's like the most like um maybe traditional song. Like it just kind of hits, and it has like a rock and roll vibe. It's a
Mhm.
very fun like single type song, even though we're not actually putting it out as a single. uh um but then we're like, what if it's last? And it like suddenly all clicked, and so I love geeking out on that stuff. And I feel like, as a music fan, I love when I can tell that bands have spent a lot of time worrying about the details. And so yeah, I'm pretty psyched on it. The art, um it came together pretty cool. I'm totally blanking right now. And what is the guy's name that did it? I'll text you the name later, but it's a really psychedelic artist that we found on Instagram. Dang Wayne Olson. And I'm
Okay.
so sorry if you're listening, Dang Wayne Olson. But they do this really cool psychedelic artwork, and my brother had a vision for the artwork being like a guy sitting in a chair with like, that's like freaking out kind of, and with like an angel above him like calming him down. And that went with the title Public Freakout Compilation, which Cody got inspired by YouTube video playlists that would be like people freaking out in public. And that just felt like a funny way to title and tie together all these songs. And so I found this guy's art, Dang Wayne Olson, who was drawing all these and painting all these people that with like that seem to be going through psychedelic experiences and like feeling like they'll be covered with nerves, or like all their skin will be like in a layer that's like been separated from their body.
Yeah.
um and so it really felt like a perfect fit, and so the person is sitting there with all of his nerves exposed, which is like what it feels like sometimes to live in this life. And so yeah, we're psyched on it. Yeah.
Right on, right on. So, kind of wrapping everything up now. Just if you can look back at your younger self, perhaps what would be the word you say to yourself?
um to trust yourself and keep making art.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I appreciate you coming on. It means a lot that a young boy like me can have some of the people he looks up to. To come in and chill with them. I know, I'm pretty sure you get it almost all the time, but it's like again with me, it's more that there's music. It's just it's a way for me to get out of the real world stresses that are happening, and just to kind of you know uh see what's going on elsewhere. And I appreciate what you've made. I appreciate everything you've done. Means the world to, again, my one of my good friends, Kyle, is listening in. So um I know he was actually the one that was literally just acting chaotic at the concert. But I mean, that's fun though, because I mean, again, I never see him like that. But when he was there with you, you could tell he was just having the best time of his life hanging out there with you guys. So
Oh
um,
yeah.
it's just a lot of fun. So I appreciate you. Once again, for everyone who's listening, April 29th, almost everybody is coming out. It's a single, and it's off of their Public Freakout compilation. I believe you mentioned your album is coming out, I believe, in May or June. I'm sorry,
It's coming out on Spaceflight Records on June 10th.
June 10th. They're 6 days after my birthday, so that'll be a good treat for me. Good treat.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be
So,
announcing the pre-order pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you for everything, Josh. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, Kyle, for listening in. It really does mean a lot that y'all are listening and paying attention to what we're doing, and it makes it. Um, I mean, we probably would have quit a long time ago if we didn't get that kind of feedback. So I really appreciate that.
wow, yeah. For everyone, yeah, I believe you're all on all streaming platforms, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
That's right.
You can stream it on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. I don't know if you have Tidal there. Is this my
Everything.
Jason's
Yeah, yeah.
thing? There you go.
Oh
Right.
yeah, yeah. We're on title.
There you go. So yeah, go ahead and stream them. You have anything you want to plug in? Anything you want to say?
Um, I don't know, man. Just love each other. Have a great day. Check out Snooper.
There
Love
you
this
go.
band. This was our big discovery at South by. I don't know if it's blurring it out.
Yeah,
Snooper.
but we saw. There it is. There it is.
Snooper.
There you go.
Snooper. Snooper is great.
And don't forget to go to Easy Tiger for your pretzels.
Oh yeah.
I think that's important.
Every day.
That's But yeah, I'll talk to you afterwards after this thing. But right now, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jam out to some Big Bill while we're still on the air. We'll jam out to some Big Bill, and I'll talk to you in a bit.
All right.
All right, appreciate you. Thanks so much.